Welcome, everybody, to the School Transportation Nation podcast, live recorded from Frisco, Texas, and the Transporting Students with Disabilities and Special Needs Conference. What a week. It's been so great to get back to in-person, seeing everybody. Great turnout as well. We're always a little bit worried about that with not only COVID, but the driver shortage that everyone's been dealing with. But wow, it's been a great week. Over 300 attendees, 60% first timers, never been to the TSD conference, but really impressed by their knowledge. Folks that have actually been in the industry for many years. So great to see that. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of breaking down the TSD conference, talking about it, bringing in two very special guests, I want to bring you a special message from TransFinder, who, like every week, sponsors this episode of School Transportation Nation. TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software. And a little bit later, we're going to hear a safety tip from Friedman Seating, North America's trusted source for transportation safety solutions. But first, are you struggling with driver shortages, drivers retiring, or having to quarantine? How about the impact vaccine mandates may have on your remaining drivers? TransFinder is hearing those concerns and more from many in the industry. And while there is no replacement for having more drivers, it is critical that you have the tools needed to deal with emergencies that pop up. That's where the Route Finder Plus trip absorption function comes in. You can reduce routes, use fewer drivers, and adapt to the changing climate. Just like NFL teams use electronic playbooks to make changes in real time during the game, TransFinder technology helps give you more control than ever. So when conditions on the field change, you can make strategic changes that will reduce the impact on your families. Check out Plus, trip absorption, because this driver shortage is no game. To learn more, email getplus@transfinder.com. Type STN podcast in the subject line. That's, again, getplus@transfinder.com, or call 1-800-373-3609 to learn more. And with that, I want to bring in the two guests for today. Tenured faculty member, Alexandra Robinson. Alex, it's always a pleasure to work with you and see you. And her compadre on the Women in Transportation organization, Theresa Anderson. Let's talk about TSD. I was just mentioning that really impressed me. First of all, the number of people that showed up. This is always a very popular conference because of the content, and people are so hungry for the latest in legal and compliance and behavior. And the fact that we did have over 300 attendees in this weird year of COVID and driver shortages. Alex, you help me always prepare great content for TSD. What is your kind of initial takeaway from the week?
Well, I agree with you. It's amazing to see so many people in person, first and foremost, and especially if this is their first trip away from the school district. It's pretty cool that it got to be here. Not only is it a great venue and perfect weather, et cetera, but this really is a conference over the years that we've tried to put in content that people really can't get in one place anywhere else. And so I think that by itself has been good. Like you said, the initial reaction of mine when we ask the audience, or you ask the audience, how many people in here are first timers, to see all those hands go up is pretty daunting, because wow, they're but then when you, like you said, then when you ask, and how long have you been in the industry, that same first timer has been in the industry maybe 10, 15 years. They just not, been able to either come here or so they do know the basics and they know what's going on. But it's nice, I think, for them, the ones I've spoken to at least, for them to actually interact with colleagues having the same challenges, the same rewards in some case, meeting people from outside their area. And everybody's, listen, people are tired of being inside, I think people are hesitant to travel maybe, or to see people in person, but I think it's been great. People are very comfortable, and I think it's just kind of a big sigh of relief for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a challenge because, we will be back March 18th through the 23rd, 2022. So we're already, getting prepared for that. And Alex, we've been talking all week, and we have been for months about, what are we going to do? So I want to, in a little bit, share some of those insights, because I think, number one, it's going to force us to actually follow through and really get that planning going. But we want to let everybody know so that you can start planning, and hopefully you can come, because a lot of the conversation I'm hearing from folks is like, oh, great, we see you coming back in a couple months, but like, what are you going to do differently? And that was kind of what I was anticipating. So I think we have some cool things to share with everyone. But Theresa, in speaking with a lot of the attendees, and you were on several sessions or a couple sessions, in addition to maybe a lot of the first timers that we saw, what were some of the things that have stood out to you over the week?
It's always amazing how much people want to learn when they come here. They put aside a lot of ego and really come in and admit to what they do not know or understand completely. And then I do think that helps to kind of get that sense of community and camaraderie going. They have some great questions. Outside of the new ones, we have a lot of people who have attended some of the same sessions in the past, but they still just want that refresher. They want to see if they're looking at it through different eyes. And then I really enjoy anytime afterwards just seeing people sitting and chatting, because that's when they're really getting down to what's going on, what do you do, what works well for you, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always been, what's impressed me since before STN took on TSD Conference from Roseanne Schwaderer, was that, to your point, that communal experience where, unlike other conferences and throughout the industry, I think that we have that familial atmosphere that sets us apart. But certainly here, where it's, people love to just be close and get together. And that's always been a big benefit of the conference, where more so than others, you really feel, I think the attendees feel, that they get better access to our experts, our speakers.
I think we've also seen them come, especially those of us who've been around since the conference started with Roseanne, et cetera. I think I've been to all of them except one, when, the very first one she had. So since the second one until now, we've seen people grow up in the industry, including us. We've had different jobs along the way. We've seen people come here as a rodeo participant and as a driver, and now they're a trainer or a director in a district. That was 15 years ago. And so it's really cool to kind of follow people's careers, follow, their struggles and some, their achievements. And I think that's pretty cool. We know kids, we've met kids who were their kids who are now in the industry, and it's a close-knit industry anyway. But I think that's something too, especially some of the people that we feel like maybe we mentored along the way.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned the rodeo. So that's always a big part of this conference. And of course, this fall, we were unable to do that, as well as the NHTSA child passenger safety training on school buses. But in March, that's one of the things that we're going to be bringing back, and we're really looking forward to. And perfect segue to talk more about WIT. So Alex, for those who don't know, what is WIT?
So WIT is Women in Transportation, not an association, but a loosely formed organization that came together probably 9 years ago, 9 years ago. Just a bunch of us, women in the industry, who said, it would be nice if we had some things specific to, now at the time, women didn't necessarily share the majority in the leadership world. That's certainly changed. There is a growing majority, rather a growing minority of women in the industry. But we thought, this is a perfect opportunity to get like-minded people together and really see what we can do to mentor other women into leadership positions. It started out, quite frankly, in one of those after hours, let's get together and talk after a conference, and turned into some T-shirts and lanyards and jackets and hats. And now we have, the Facebook page and Instagram. We're planning our first cruise, WIT on the water, beginning of March. But the idea being, what can we do to mentor other women in the industry, regardless of their position, driver to director to chief business officer, et cetera. So, what can we do and how can we move that forward? As a matter of fact, now on our Facebook page, there's even a place where you can go and to choose to be a mentor. If you want to be a mentor to somebody else, or if somebody's in search of a mentor, I think us growing in the industry, our mentors just kind of happened, evolved naturally. But anymore, if you're not able to go to conferences, if you're not able to interact with people from other districts, somebody came up to me and said, how do I get a mentor? And I've never really thought about that because mentors just kind of naturally evolve. But WIT is really, hopefully, in the near future, that go-to group of people who are there to get you through some challenges, share ideas. Theresa and I have been working with a wonderful woman in India. We have connections in Saudi and Dubai. And so women in transportation, regardless of wherever they live. And so it's been exciting. And I think we saw a lot of excitement at the trade show yesterday. We had our first, and the night before, our first table, we bought a WIT tablecloth. So we're pretty excited about that. And so we had an official booth.
There's some nice swag.
Yeah, we had some swag. So it was, but people are like, wow, what a great idea. And it's funny that just saying, women in transportation, what a great idea. Well, we were always here, but now it's being recognized. And we do, help coordinate the safety competition. So that's something we've been doing for a while.
Yeah. And in fact, I saw, because, we had the U.S. Census data come out, and I saw just a couple of weeks ago that I believe they said something like 58% of student transportation is women. It's not really surprising, but it's one of those where lending the voice, because let's be real, the playing field is not equal and has not been equal. And, giving that voice, and, it's a great thing that you guys are doing. And one of the things that you're doing with WIT, Theresa, is the rodeo. So Alex referred to that. So we've been working with you guys for a few years now. And really it's it's this organization, WIT, but the core, it's the same people that have been doing the rodeo for decades. Literally.
Correct.
So, tell us a little bit about the rodeo planning, because I know we're getting into the nitty gritty here. We're just, closing the books on this event, but already looking forward to March. What can maybe you share that we're looking to do with the rodeo?
It was interesting, again, in admitting that it's November, and we generally come very close to, in December, first part of January, have the test. So it's kind of some great reminders and saying, oh, wow, this is upon us. But then being able to have the discussions about the different events that are going on. And, Alex had mentioned about so many new people coming up and kind of inquiring. They were also inquiring about how they could be involved. If it's at a judging level or different teams from it, we're introducing where you can submit individually and we'll pair you as a team, because many times we hear, I really want to do this, but I do not have an aide to do it, or vice versa.
Or I don't have a team to come with. I just, somebody even asked us yesterday, I don't have my own bus. What do I do? Like, we provide you with the buses, we provide you all that, but you could come and have nobody, you could come on your own and we can make sure you're assigned to a team. So
we don't have a state competition there's a lot of states that don't. Some states don't have associations that run those. So
it's one of the best trainings you can get. And with all of the years and doing it, every year that we come to this, I walk away with something. It's always astonishing at how I thought, just when you think you've seen it all or heard it all, somebody comes up with something, you're like, where has that been for the past 30 years.
I see some very creative evacuations and emergency planning. And that's the other thing too. Even if they do have a state association, regardless, depending on what their state rules perhaps are, but a lot of people want to come to this conference for the training anyway. And the rodeo is kind of an added bonus. So even if you weren't necessarily the winner of your state association or state competition, that doesn't mean you can't come here. That doesn't mean you can't come and be a part of it and, get the pre-training and the training during the day, because as Theresa said, it is a competition, but it is truly training along the way. We make sure of it.
For those who don't know, can you take us through the stations, or what is the rodeo comprised of? What can people expect who maybe haven't participated in a rodeo before, or they have but they've never been to the TSD and participated in that rodeo?
So similar to other places, the nice thing about here is we bring people in the day before. We have training set up and designed specifically for the participants the day before the rodeo, in terms of bus familiarity, equipment, car seat securement, etc., classes that they can take to become familiar. Saturday morning, it's usually a Saturday morning, we're up bright and early. They, prior to getting here, they have to do a written test, but I told somebody yesterday it's an open book test. I said, yes.
My kind of test.
Once you get it, you have a couple of months to do it. and not everybody passes that open book test. But our idea is, because we want to make it a learning experience, that's why it's open book. And there's a written essay thing. And then, we start the day similar to some other, probably other safety competitions. We start out with a pre-trip inspection. We have several teams on the course at the same time, a pre-trip inspection station.
Load and secure. We do a student pickup, and then as the students are loaded, they will simulate behaviors for a behavior portion.
Mm-hmm. We have lots of award-winning actors and actresses that are on the bus with the participants going through we don't make it easy. But it's fun.
CDL maneuvers that go through, again, with the students acting, giving distractions to the individuals that they may see.
Railroad crossing, offset alley, all of those traditional backups, that things that they would need to have during a regular safety competition. And hopefully this year, we're going to be adding some other, some sensitivity training, we're looking to see not just how people, complete their maneuver on the course, the driving course, but also how are they interacting, how are they working as a team, how are they interacting with our, quote, students who are really grown-ups acting like students. And also, hopefully, there are going to be some other award, I think, opportunities. So sure, the winning is pretty cool, first, second, third, but, hopefully we'll still have some scholarships available, as well as people having the ability to say, you know what, I didn't do fantastically on the behavioral intervention, but I got closest to the bar on the backup alley, and so I got an award for that. So it's exciting, and not being someone who was originally from this industry when I started, I had no idea that a rodeo didn't include horses.
Well, and we always have the ever fateful emergency event.
Yes, we have a special emergency event. We used to call it the evacuation event, but you put me and Theresa in charge of that event, and you get something completely different. And so it's now an emergency event. Mm-hmm. That's a secret event that actually no judges even know about until the day of, and it's a very top secret event, and we
try to mimic.
Yeah, we've been pretty creative, and we've tried to base it on real things that have happened throughout the world in some cases for school transportation. So that's always the, oh no, what are they going to make us do? And in some cases, the safest thing is not to evacuate the bus. So we've had some of those. We've had hostage scenarios over the years. We've had floods, fires, landslides,
everything,
accidents, crashes. We've
going into a lake, simulating, which was a Florida accident.
Yes.
So really just taking a look at what have been concerning incidents, and in that situation, what would be the expectations? And it's always our hope that people take this back to their operation, though, and use it as a training, and really get everybody not necessarily to participate in the future, which would be great, but saying, wow, I never thought of this, like a tornado scenario, which was one.
And Theresa and I have both been very recently, prior to our pandemic times, we went into a district. We went into the Wyoming Association, and we actually did a mock, rodeo day type of thing as part of their annual training. Ohio's considering doing, the same thing. I know Colorado has done that. So again, it's teaching people not just to have fun in a competition, but it's also, showing them a different way to do hands-on training, which we all know, especially from this conference, that hands-on is oftentimes the best way people learn.
Yes, absolutely.
A primary thing that I've always noticed is a sense of pride from everybody that does participate. The judges do definitely get that pride and participation. But the teams that come here, it's important to them. The training is important, the winning is important, but they get that sense of purpose.
Just the fact that they've been allowed to come here, or that they've won a scholarship to come here, or, this is, and in many cases, especially on the driver attendant, they're a driver and an attendant for the team, but in real life, maybe it's a supervisor and a training person, or a dispatcher and a mechanic, so a technician. So, but just in some cases, this is the first time they've ever even gotten to experience something outside their district. So they're here for the rodeo and, that competition, and then we have a debriefing session. We have sensitivity training. They're able to stay for some of the classes. So it's kind of, lots 2-in-1 opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And you touched on it, so I want to touch on it some more. You mentioned scholarships available. So something that STN and WIT have been working on for the past couple of years is those revenues, or, for lack of a better term, the registration costs for, the teams signing up, taking that. And of course, there's some costs to handle here on site, but putting that in a pot for folks to help them, to kind of grease the wheels, if you will, to help them get there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right. So we, the idea of this was never to be, super money making, although, as people, those of you who do any sort of rodeo competition in your state, sometimes that is the only money maker for your state association. But we've been lucky enough to get some sponsorships, et cetera. So we want to give people the opportunity to come who maybe did not or have not been able to travel or come before. That kind of application process included an essay, a justification on why. And as a matter of fact, we did have a couple rodeo scholarship winners from now 18 months ago, 2 years ago, who hopefully will be able to roll that over and come here. But that's the idea behind the scholarship is, by receiving this scholarship, how will that improve your operation back at home? And I think that's what we really want to do. We don't want people it's good to come for a fun time, just like the conference. But we said that this morning. Long are the days where you have a big conference notebook and you get everything, or rodeo packet, and you put it on the shelf when you get home. We don't want that. We want you to actually take the skills that you are gaining here and increase and improve the skill sets of the other people on your team when you get back. So,
Theresa, what can we expect, or what can our listeners expect in terms of timing? Because like we were talking about, it's like, oh my gosh, normally this time of year we already have our keynotes and we kind of have a shell of our sessions and everything. But in terms of what Alex was mentioning, there's a test that goes out. What kind of timing do you think we can do to? I'll put you on the spot here, but
careful what you say, because we're the ones who have to put it out. Usually before the
I would venture. Well, we try the first before the first of the year, so I'm going to say right after the first of the year, because earlier is definitely always better.
You're here first, folks. So so we're gonna get on that as soon as we can, because I know everyone's all week has been asking.
Yeah, and there's usually a link on the website that you can go directly and download that information, whether it be about scholarships or the test and all that.
Okay. And so, I mentioned at the top, kind of in closing, I think, Alex, do we want to give people maybe a sneak peek and wet their whistles a little bit in terms of getting them excited about the spring? Is there anything we want to talk about that we're going to do at the TSD conference?
Yeah, we've really tried to, I think we have learned over the years that certainly hands-on, maybe sessions that are a little bit longer and, more intensive, like little mini academy type of things, sometimes are more beneficial than 15 breakout sessions at the same time.
Correct.
So with that said, hopefully in the spring, I think you'll see some longer sessions specifically on evacuation, sensitivity. Of course, we always want to bring in the foundations and basics, but not rush through it. Really have the time to deep dive and let people work as cohort groups to kind of solve some problems during the session, especially when it comes to physical disabilities, orthopedic impairments. I know we plan on, doing our traditional car seat and, child passenger safety sessions, NHTSA classes, as well as a wheelchair securement and tie down, but not just here's what you do lecture. It's actually hands-on. You're going to practice and you're not going to leave this room until you get it right, because I think some of us, it's been a long time since we do that hands-on. And then, of course, anything that anybody else recommends, we kind of rely also on what we hear from this conference and what we hear from our speakers. It would be really great if we had a session on XYZ. So I think, especially with whatever's going on in the world, we need to make sure everything we do is not just because of COVID or just because of a driver shortage or just because of a pandemic. We know that those things are certainly important, but we also know that the issues with transporting students with disabilities are ever changing. But those have been the same issues for years and years and years. Hopefully, also some parent participation and some panels like that. So some IEP process. But on the top of my head, those are the only 17 things that I can think of.
17, that's a lot right there.
That was a few.
You stay tuned, everybody. Stay tuned because, like I said, and Alex just did a great run up on and bringing some things forward that we wanted to do in 2020 when we had to shut down a week before we were literally flying out here. You mentioned like the bus evacuation, which is going to be a special registration out on the kind of the tail end. So once the rodeo ends, kind of that day at Frisco ISD. So I want to take a minute and go to our safety tip for this week, brought to you by Friedman Seating, North America's trusted source for transportation safety solutions. Who's buckled and who's not? Alex, do you know?
I know I'm not. I know I'm not currently.
Well, SeatLink by Friedman Seating will let you know by monitoring occupancy and seatbelt status of school and activity bus passengers. As federal and local regulations continue to advance safety initiatives, including 3-point seatbelt usage, SeatLink offers a practical solution. The system records and communicates to the driver when a passenger sits in the seat and buckles a seatbelt, or buckles a seatbelt before sitting. The wireless system is expandable for up to 90 passengers. Don't look back, look forward with SeatLink. Visit friedmanseating.com, that's friedmanseating.com for more information, videos, and to request a demo. Alrighty, kids. Well, I want to thank Theresa and Alex for coming on the podcast and talking about WIT and talking about TSD. Again, it was a great week. There's a lot more to read about at stnonline.com. We have videos. Our social media coordinator, Ruth Newton, was out there talking to attendees every day and putting together some great videos. So be sure to check those out on stnonline.com as well as our social media. Taylor Hannon, our associate editor, who a lot of you know is a frequent guest here on the podcast. She has got some great articles. As we mentioned, tsdconference.com is the place to go to soon to get all the information on this March. Also, we have a little conference coming up in just about a week's time, STN Expo Reno. Alex, I know I'm going to see you there. So she's going to have some great sessions in store for the attendees. Registration has closed online, but don't fret, everyone. Show up to Reno, register on site. You can get in on all the exciting action. We got our Transportation Director Summit. I know we're still interested in taking people in on that. And of course, we have a lot of great content. We have the NHTSA Child Passenger Safety Training that's going to be available there. We've got the trade show, of course. And we have some great keynotes lined up. So that's going to be December 4th through the 9th. It's just like a week away, guys. It's crazy. We're literally packing up, getting ready to fly home, and we're going to turn around, do some laundry, and head back to Reno. So thanks, everyone. Again, thanks to our special guests, Alex Robinson and Theresa Anderson. Visit stnonline.com for all the latest. Tell your friends about this podcast as well. Go over to stnpodcast.com and download, join, listen, like it. We want to hear from you. Thanks all. See you soon.